So here we are, finally back from a little involuntary break, right after being back from a voluntary break a little bit earlier. The good news is, not only are we back, but we are also featured by our friends over at Tower of the Hand this time. So, if you came here via Tower of the Hand, welcome! In case you don't know, I have been a user at Tower of the Hand since 2008, because it's really a great site, and has been for all those years, and I've also written 2 articles for Tower of the Hand quite recently. There are more to come. So if you didn't come here via Tower of the Hand and want to have a look at what they are doing over there, please click this link. So after Season 6 of Game of Thrones has come and gone, and we have been honored with 2 new preview chapters from the Winds of Winter, it is time to revisit 2 topics that we have already focused on in earlier videos. The situation in King's Landing and Euron Greyjoy. I want to begin with the former. The second most recent preview chapter from the Winds of Winter is an Arianne chapter. And as you probably would expect, we learn quite something about Arianne and the people around her, and we also learn something about the people she's going to meet. That's obviously Aegon and his lot. We also get a little hint of Bloodraven and the Children of the Forest. But I think the most important thing that we learn in this chapter is neither about Aegon or Arianne or anything like that. The real message here is about King's Landing. So, what do we learn about King's Landing in this new chapter? I think the best way to approach this is to not look at this chapter in isolation, but also at other chapters that give us information about the recent developments in King's Landing. That would especially be Arya's preview chapter for the Winds of Winter and the epilogue of A Dance with Dragons. Right at the end of A Dance with Dragons, we learn that Mace Tyrell is planning to march against Aegon, but only as soon as his daughter's trial is over. We also learn that there's quite a lack of Kingsguard in King's Landing, and that Tommen's small council basically consists of Mace Tyrell, Harys Swift, and Randall Tarly at the moment. The Lady Nym hasn't arrived yet, Kevan Lannister is dead, as is Grand Maester Pycelle. And Paxter Redwyne is off fighting Euron Greyjoy's Ironborn. That means that House Tyrell can at the moment rely on 2 out of 3 active members of the small council. At the end of A Dance with Dragons, that is. But the situation has changed. We already know from the Arya chapter from Winds that Harys Swift is in Braavos. And now, in the Arianne chapter, we get the information that Mace Tyrell is indeed marching for Storm's End. So, what's the situation now? Out of 7 members of the small council, Kevan Lannister is dead, Mace Tyrell is marching for Storm's End, Pycelle is also dead, Harys Swift is in Braavos, Paxter Redwyne is fighting Euron Greyjoy, Jaime Lannister is lost in the Riverlands, most likely a captive of Lady Stoneheart, and the Lady Nym hasn't yet reached King's Landing. This leaves only 1 member of the small council actually in the capital, Randall Tarly. Before we talk any more about Randall Tarly, let's first talk about Mace Tyrell. Mace had said that he would only leave the capital once Margaery's trial is over. So we can be quite sure that Margaery's trial must be over by now. I would also wager that she's probably not dead, but free. Otherwise, all hell would have broken loose in the capital, I suppose. We should not forget how many Tyrell forces there were in the capital before the trial. I just cannot imagine that these forces simply stood by while the High Septon had Margaery killed. That would really make no sense at all, I guess. If all hell had broken loose, however, I just cannot imagine that order would have been re-established so quickly that Mace Tyrell is free to march against Aegon. He obviously can't leave the capital in a state of civil war. So I think we can be pretty sure that Margaery is free by now, while we don't really have a clear idea about Cersei's situation. But Cersei's situation can really be neglected at the moment, I guess, because we have really no indication that she has either the will or the possibility to run the realm again. Keeping all that in mind, we should now take a look at Randall Tarly's behavior in the epilogue of A Dance with Dragons. Some people have indeed speculated that Tarly might be part of the army marching for Storm's End, or even leading it. The text gives no indication of that. It's pretty clear that Mace Tyrell is leading the army himself. I also think that Tarly is not even part of this army. My first reason for that is that Mace Tyrell needs somebody to run King's Landing. My second, probably even more important reason is that if Randall Tarly were part of this army, Aegon's men, not being idiots, would have spotted his banners and probably mentioned that. At least Jon Connington, and most likely many others, know that Mace Tyrell is not the great commander that Randall Tarly is. So they would probably have pointed out that Randall Tarly is marching for Storm's End, and not Mace Tyrell. At least there's a good chance that they would have mentioned his presence. If we now take a closer look at Tarly's behavior in the epilogue of A Dance with Dragons, we see that he's downplaying the threat Jon Connington and Aegon VI pose for Tommen's reign. First, he is doubting that it is even Jon Connington. Later, he's doubting that Jon Connington, not doubting his identity in that instance, has the actual Aegon Targaryen. Why would he do that? Why would he make such incongruous arguments? The best answer I can come up with is because he's not looking for the truth. He's not giving sincere advice, but instead is downplaying the threat Aegon poses in every way Mace is going to have it. If one strategy of convincing Mace that Aegon is rather a nuisance than a substantial threat fails, he tries another one. It's as simple as that. Why would he do that? I'd say because he doesn't want Aegon to be dealt with. Isn't that the simplest answer? The only thing that might be better than Mace leaving Aegon alone is, of course, Aegon defeating Mace. I don't think it takes a lot of imagination to think that Randall Tarly doesn't like being inferior to Mace the Oath. So why not get rid of him? This is his chance. Tarly should be in command of the Tyrell forces remaining in the city, and Olenna and Garland are gone. Who would oppose him? Certainly not Marjorie, who will most likely have been delivered into his very custody. We should not forget here that Tarly seems to be on unusually good terms with the High Sparrow. Before Kevin dies, he tells us, Randall Tarly insisted. He was the first to reach King's Landing when this storm broke. And he brought his army with him. The Tyrell girls will still be tried, but the case against them is weak, His High Holiness admits. All the men named as the Queen's lovers have denied the accusation or recanted, save for your maimed singer, who appears to be half mad. So the High Septon handed the girls over to Tarly's custody, and Lord Randall swore a holy oath to deliver them for trial when the time comes. Why would the High Sparrow be so lax on the Tyrell girls? Is the case against them really so weak? And is the High Sparrow simply being fair? And anyway, how is the strength of the case the deciding factor here? Is the crucial question not rather if he can be sure that the defendants will show up for the trial? In other words, why does the High Sparrow trust Randall Tarly more than he trusts Kevin Lannister and others? The answer I propose is because Tarly and the High Sparrow are plotting to take control of the city, remove Mace, and open the gates to Aegon the Fake Dragon. This is one of the few ways I can see Aegon getting into strong enough a position to have a real second Dance of the Dragons between him and Dany. And of course it would fit Varys' plans perfectly. The High Sparrow is Varys' natural ally anyway in his crusade against everything magical. The Faith destroyed the dragons in the past. It might not hesitate to try again. It really is the Greens and the Blacks reloaded. A Targaryen king who wants dragons, with wannabe dragon killers under the surface, against a dragon hatching queen. If you want to catch up on my account of the Dance of the Dragons, and quite a bit more, please click here. While Randall Tarly might very well take over King's Landing for Aegon and the Faith, his ancestral seat at Horn Hill could be in immediate danger. Whoever might have hoped that Euron Greyjoy would be overthrown by his own people has now clearly been disabused of this notion. First and foremost, Euron Greyjoy has proven to be more extreme and also more resourceful than people have given him credit for. Exhibit A, his suit of Valyrian steel armor. Owning such an impressive piece is very important per se. It might just be the next best thing to plot armor. But even more importantly, it shows that Euron is no fluke. Most likely he got that suit of armor in or around Valyria. So, if the story of traveling to Valyria is true, might all his boasts be true? Euron Greyjoy possesses items that the Lords of Westeros don't even fantasize about. Why should Dragonbinder not be equally true? Why should only one be the real deal? If he got that suit of armor in Valyria, why not also the horn? Anyway, if somebody will one day look back on the events of A Song of Ice and Fire, Euron Greyjoy would definitely be among the most prominent figures, rivaled only by Daenerys at this point and probably by Jon and Bran depending on what's still to come. While Dany has achieved something that had seemed impossible for over 100 years, Euron has done what nobody had dared in about 300 years. Euron Greyjoy is already of greater historical importance than Aerys II, Robert Baratheon or their like, even if it has not been realized by many so far. Euron is capable of the greatest feats. He is Martin's version of Francis Drake, Henry Morgan, or maybe Hayreddin Barbarossa, but much greater than any of them. He is Christopher Columbus and Blackbeard rolled into one with a crown and with magic. This man is special, albeit terribly special, and not a mere nuisance delaying the ascension of other major players. Since I am convinced by now that a second Dance of the Dragons will follow the aftermath of the War of the Five Kings, Dany will need some kind of Ironborn support. If you have watched my other videos on Euron Greyjoy, you find the link here, you already know that I think he wants Dany to reach Westeros from the west when he will have conquered most of the western coast. This would allow Dany to establish a foothold on the mainland before having to deal with Aegon one way or another, who should control King's Landing by then, according to the first part of this video. I am convinced more than ever that Euron will not try to steal from Dany or even steal her. He will show her his power, make her an offer she can't refuse, and probably try to dominate her in the end. He has given her ships, he can give her a foothold in Westeros, and he probably also can give her favorable winds and the means to better control her dragons. Do we really think Dany can afford to say no to such an offer? And we haven't even talked about the Ironborn saving her ass in the Second Battle of Meereen. What choice does she really have? I don't know if she will fall for her Carl of the Seas, or for the swaggering pirate type, but she will fall for House Greyjoy. Maybe she will fall for Victarion soon, and for Euron only much later, I don't know. But she can't afford to refuse all the things House Greyjoy can and will offer. We will see how the remaining powers that be of mainland Westeros will react to this threefold invasion, but that's a question for another day. So, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, share, comment, and be sure to visit the shit out of our blog. And Tower of the Hand, of course.